cool is that? How cool is that? How's everyone doing tonight? I need to get myself together here. Don't want to cut my head off. That's wrong. Um, I am Dr. Tori J. Excited to be on here. I know more people will jump on here in a moment. We are trying these different times, so I know people are still trying to figure out when am I going to jump on. We're going to keep it at 7 o'clock for now. I think 7 o'clock is a good time. It's a good time for me, and it's not too late. I'm Dr. Tori J. I'm the founder and CEO of this magnificent organization called the Fatherless Generation Foundation. I am a trauma-informed healing coach. I am the #1 reunification expert in the country. I'm an author. I'm a speaker, and I'm a lot of amazing things. I want to invite you guys into Healing Tuesdays. Share, share, share. I don't have my person who used to cue me up. That ain't exist anymore. So I need you guys, I got to remember all my points. I need you guys to share. Share. This is going to be an interesting conversation. Last week, I gave out 3 things that you need to do to break the cycle of the culture of fatherlessness, which is the topic we've been on tonight. I'm going to talk about number 4, which is for me, it is the crux. It is the very thing that we need to deal with in order to break through and to be curse breakers when it comes to these things that we call generational curses, generational cycles. Just to kind of give you guys an update as people are jumping on. Let me see. I'm sorry, I'm posting something at the same time to get more people to join us. Give you guys some updates. Here's some updates. The Fatherless Generation Foundation is now incorporated in Johannesburg, South Africa. We are now incorporated in Lusaka, Zambia. We are offering the services that we provide here in the United States now overseas. Even was in a trip to a church, had some friends in town this past weekend who came to minister, and I was in the car. I had to drive. Whew. And I was in the car, and one of the individuals happens to live in Durban, South Africa. And we began to talk about them working with the foundation. So who knows? That may be my first employee over in South Africa. We're going to see where that goes once I get to Atlanta this coming week. But I want to tell you guys, this thing is expanding. This thing is growing. There's a lot of awesome things that are happening. We also have 2 new peer groups in North Central Georgia that will happen as soon as we can get all that coordinated. I'm working with the program director over at the North Central Boys and Girls Clubs. That's in your Covington area. It's North Central Georgia, new area. I was like, where is that again? When he was talking to me, I was like, what colleges is over there? Because I usually use college students as facilitators. So I needed to know who I needed to pull from and what pool did I have, who's going to make it out in that direction. He gave me some names. It's pretty close to Athens. It's Lawrenceville, Athens. I know you guys are like, Lawrenceville isn't near Athens. It actually is. It's much closer than Atlanta. So that's what we're working on. And I've revised my ebooks. Let me have this conversation with you guys really quickly before we get into Healing Tuesday. Revise the ebooks. Ebooks, you can download the ebooks on tfgf.org, the new revised versions, or you can wait until they are released on Kindle. Amazon, Barnes and Nobles. They're coming out March 7th. And then my big book is coming. Tokyo's book is in May, and then my big book is coming in June. And for those of you who have children who go to an HBCU, I am blessed to be able to do a 10-city, 10 HBCU tour that just got coordinated last week. So just keep us up in prayer as I keep y'all up in prayer. Keep me up in prayer as I am expanding and going about doing some things that I've been wanting to do. So let's get into this topic. Last week, I'm going to recap on what we talked about last week. The culture of fatherlessness has been the topic that we've been on. And we were talking about the meaning of culture. Culture is the way we maintain something in suitable conditions, right? In suitable conditions for growth. A lot of times we don't realize that everything that grows ain't something we really want to grow, but we planted the seed and the seed has to grow if we don't pluck it up. This is also defined as the act of tilling anything and preparing the earth for crops. The application of labor, labor or other means of improvement. Can't read my own handwriting. So this is what needs to be very, like, very much so said. Culture is the thing that causes the growth. Culture is the tilling. It's the labor that's been put forth. And I know when we think of culture, we think of race. We think of most times we think of race. We think of someone as a culture of African American. They come from a background of Hispanic, of Native American, of, that's what we think of. But tonight I'm going to expand on the idea of culture as we've been talking about it, because there's something very important that we need to dig into, and it's traditions. Traditions is the transmission of customs or beliefs from one generation to the next. It's a doctrine believed to have divine authority, though it ain't even in scriptures. Now that's a whole message right there. How many of y'all know y'all grandmama and y'all mama done passed down some things, and even your daddies done passed down some things that seem very divine? They quote things like they're scripture and they're not. Like, God bless the child that's got they own. That's not scripture. Sounds scriptural, but it's not. How many of you have had your parents say something like that before, and you're like, well, what is that in the Bible? Birds of a feather flock together. I'm repeating stuff I heard in my childhood. Can you tell? And so when I think about culture, I have to recognize that cultures have traditions. Cultures have traditions. So when I think of Native Americans, I think of, yes, we know where they come from, where they live. They owned this land originally. And then they have traditions where they dress up very similar to how my hair is made now. They have headdresses, and they have outfits, and they do traditional garments and wear, and then they have traditional dances and customs. I need you to recognize that those are positive things, but not every tradition in our household is positive. How many of us have heard that story where, we talk about they cut the butt off of the ham, and everyone's like, well, why do we do that? Why we do that? Okay, this is what we do. We cut the butt off the ham, we put it in, and that's what we do as tradition during the holidays. And then somebody finally asked grandma or great grandmother what she did. She said, my pot was too small. But nobody ever asked, oh, we're going to get into it tonight. I'm keeping it real simple right now, but we about to go here. I need you to understand, last week I talked about the 3 ways that you break this tradition, these customs, the culture of fatherlessness in your journey. I said, be aware, the awareness, connecting the dots to your pain, recognizing the patterns. I even talked about comfortability being 2A. And number 3, counting the cost, because you will lose a lot. You're going to lose, we got into that part a little bit last week. You're going to lose everything, your inheritance. You lose the protection of a God, or you lose protection afforded by family gods. That was where we went with that last week. The means of protection and provision. I'm sorry, the means of provision and security. So you lose 4 things when you walk away from the culture of fatherlessness. You lose the inheritance. Thank God. Sometimes the inheritance is dysfunctional, yet there's financial blessings and background, right? Financial um, financial blessings on the other side of it. But when you walk away from the dysfunction, you walk away from that inheritance too. You walk away from the protection afforded by family gods. You walk away from the means of provision, that security also that you have. You walk away from that when you walk away from those things. And that family God piece is huge, 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 huge. Because when I talked about it last week, I asked you the question, have you ever considered divorce is a family god, fatherless is a family god, alcoholism is a family god, teenage pregnancy in your household or your family line is a family god? Have you ever, when we think about the negative statistics associated with fatherlessness, high school dropout, mental health crisis, behavioral disorders, are those some of your family gods? Many times we don't associate those things with that. Many times we just sit and think, oh, that's just how, Teresa is. That's just how cousin so and so is. That's just how auntie is. Is it? Or is that passed down? See, we said it a moment ago. Traditions is a transmission of customs or beliefs from generation to generation. A doctrine believed to have divine authority though not in scripture. Y'all, that right there make me faint because I can think of a lot of things in my life right now. Handing down of information. Can I deal with that? Tonight, as I told you, 1, 2, and 3 from last week, awareness, connecting the dots. Number 2, recognizing the patterns. Number 2A, being comfortable in recognizing the patterns. Number 3, counting the cost. Don't ask me why I made it 2A. It's just what it is. It's my show. And so I said this week I was going to continue it, and I'm continuing it with the very last one. Number 4, when I said handing down of information. Handing down of information is it's the story that you're told. And tonight, how you break it is you let go of the story that was told to you. Y'all ready for that? This right here is what holds so many people hostage and kept in bondage. Is they won't let go of the story. They refuse to let go of the story that was told about their father. They refuse to let go of the story that was told about so and so and so and so. They refuse to let go of the story. I have had meeting after meeting after meeting today. I'm exhausted. Um, what you guys don't know is I do have therapy because I hear stories of trauma all day. And today was one of those days. Potential clients. And when you hear trauma constantly, you have to deal with that. But what I hear when I'm listening to my clients or potential clients, when they're telling the story, you can tell that story is on, like, you know, how you see a mouse on a wheel. That thing just goes. And the moment you ask a question to trigger it, it's off to the races. It's off to the races. That's the story I need you to let go of. I talked to a friend earlier today. We were on the phone, a young lady I've just recently met at church. So I'll call her a friend. It wasn't in the last 3 months. And we were on the phone talking about some prayer stuff that we had been walking through. I'm walking through this really amazing pamphlet talking about Abraham and his faith walk concerning the promises of God. And when we were discussing what she was working on and working through, I just heard like it's my lane. So I began to pray in my heavenly language. I pray in tongues. I do. I prayed in my heavenly language. And I immediately said to her, after she finished her story, I said, where you need to go to is back to the 7-year-old girl and peel back the layers that happened to her and the trauma that happened to her then. And I hear her gasp for air on the phone. And when she gasped, she goes, how do you know? What do you mean 7? Did I tell you my parents divorced at 7? Did I tell you? Like, she started to panic a little bit. Did I tell you? And I said, no, I never knew your parents. How did you know I was 7? How did you know? And I said, I just heard the Holy Spirit tell me that. That's a powerful moment when I was able to connect on that level. I don't take that for granted. I don't take for granted that God downloads things to me and speaks things very clearly to me. And when I said that to her and we began to walk through that just for a few minutes, I realized it was kind of heavy for her. So I didn't want to go too deep. She went to sleep. I woke up. We both went to bed. I barely slept last night, but it was one of those things where I was working on some things and took a nap and got up, and here I am. But I talked to her first thing this morning walking Tokyo. And when I was talking to her and asking her where she was and how did she feel about what was said, she began to tell a story about her dad, and he wasn't, and he put and she went like boom, off to the races. That's the story I'm talking about. You got to let that go. That thing is killing you. And although you say you'll never be that because you tell the story to yourself over and over and over again, you are already that. You're already that. You're already those things. Why do you believe what you believe is my question. Why do you believe the story that was told to you? This is the dangerous thing. This is the thing that I want to say. Secondhand stories through the filter of bitterness creates even more bitterness. It creates a foundation of dysfunction, toxicity, and it keeps the generational curses going. You're getting a secondhand story filtered through somebody else's pain, bitterness, frustration, heartbreak, and you believe the story. I'm not telling you that your dad was a perfect person. My dad was not perfect by no means when I met him. I did tell someone today, I believe I got the best version of my dad, though. My siblings had to walk through womanizing and alcoholism and other things that my dad walked through. I never saw that man. I saw a man who was saved, blind, spirit filled, all of those things. And yes, he was still working through some things, was not perfect, but I got the best version of him. Some of you need to stop holding on to the story of the past and receive the father that you have now, because he may be the best version of himself and he may be on his way out. He may die soon. I had 2.5 years with my father before he passed on. Talked to a gentleman today. By the time he reunited with his father, he had 2 years. The young lady that I talked to earlier, I think she said her father lived 10 months after she reunited with him and was in the hospital with him after he had an aneurysm. So I got to tell you, sometimes the version that you're getting is the very best version of them. And you can get into a situation where you reunite with them in that season. Some of you are so busy telling yourself that story, whatever the story was, whoever it was filtered through. And let's just be honest, most times those stories are filtered through your mother. And even if you get it from your siblings, who told it to your siblings? So that by that point, it's third hand. By that point, it's not even. And I recognize that there are a lot of dads who, in the last few days, the calls that I've had, oh my gosh, do I wait until they turn 18? Do I wait until they get a certain age? Do I wait? No, you need to stop waiting. Waiting is what's creating the alienation even more. Let me tell those who are alienated, you've lost the shirt off your back. You've lost everything. But here you decide to sit back in the cut and not get yourself in a position to build the proper team around you in order to fight again, to fight another day. I'm not like, you lost the battle and you lost it badly. That's what battles are. That's what a war is. You don't win every battle in a war. But the point is you need to win the main battle where you shut it all down. But too many of you are taking attorneys that were referred to you by friends who didn't win their cases, taking attorneys that have a billboard and they charge crazy amounts and you don't even know their track record. And you haven't even built a team around you. Your team, when you're going in to fight, not only parental alienation, but anything family law, should be holistic. It should have the proper mental health individuals, not to testify. See, some of you are so busy getting the team together to testify. You need to build a team around you to support you, to hold you up. Because there's things that are going to be said about you that are going to cause you to unravel. But many of you, because you still stuck in the bondage that comes with the culture of fatherlessness, you can't get out of your head. You can't get out of your own way. And then you wonder why you lost. And not only lost the case, but you've lost your children and you're a stranger on the outside. I know individuals who celebrate the fact that they never went to court and they paid the mother, and you got to pay, you got to pay, you got to pay. You know what? You were manipulated. And that's why you celebrate that and you think that's great. But I'm going to tell you something right now. That's nothing to be celebrated, because you were actually manipulated by the mother to do any and everything that she wanted you to do in order to have time with your child. And you think money, that was nothing. But that's why they only want you for money now, because that's all you're good for. You're not good for. You think you're in relationship with your child and your children. You are not in relationship. The only relationship they want with you is the money you can provide. And you're so delusional because you think you outsmarted them by not going to court. No, boo, they got you. They manipulated you. They've ruined your life, and they've taken you down a path and a journey that you can't even have the life that you really, really want. You can't even break free to the life you truly want, because you got played. You got played. And you knew that if you didn't pay that money, or if you didn't show up a certain kind of way financially, that child was probably going to be removed from you, or you were going to be called a deadbeat. Because so often these fathers who are caught up in the web of fatherlessness, they're fighting the one thing in their mind. That thing in their mind, I don't want to be called a deadbeat. And as soon as it looks like, as soon as somebody's about to say it, you'll do whatever it is to make sure that you are not your father. And your father might not have even been the bad person. It might have been your mother. And I'm not saying, I know so often you guys think that I'm talking bad about mothers, but what I do is make mothers own the part of the journey that they created. Dads have had to carry the entire baggage and blame of fatherlessness. And it is not solely on the shoulders of a father. Fatherlessness is not solely on the backs of a father. Some fathers are trying to hand down traditions, but because the mother grew up in a situation where she didn't have a father, she wants none of your traditions. Her tradition is you shut up, sit down, pay these bills, and keep it coming over here. Like, that's all I need from you. I'll raise the child. You guys are not understanding the the quagmire. I'm going to use some Family Guy stuff that you're putting yourself into by getting involved in these situations and not breaking the cycle and breaking the culture of fatherlessness. You're not recognizing the thing that's in your head, the story that plays over and over and over again. And it's playing even in your subconscious, plays in your subconscious. I don't want to get a divorce. I don't want to get a divorce. I don't want to get a divorce. I don't want to get, but then you picking fights, you arguing all the time. You creating situations, you cheating, you lying, you steal, you do all types of stuff, creating the very thing that you said you didn't want to do and be. I'm nothing like my father. You're just like your father. I'm nothing like, but you're just like them because you weren't given the tools on how not to be. I'm giving you the tools on what not to do. I'm giving them to you. I haven't asked you for a dime on here tonight. I'm giving, you've got to break up with the lie that was told to you. You've got to break up with the story because more than likely the story was a lie because it was secondhand information filtered through bitterness, heartbreak, filtered through all of the stuff that came with the brokenness of your mother and father's divorce, breakup, or separation. And you believe what was said? How do you believe fully what was said? Because your mother said it? You are half your father, DNA wise. And I can tell you, it's in the book that I wrote, Why Should You Reunite with Your Absent Father? I talk about DNA. Your identity is wrapped up in your DNA. Some stuff you're going to repeat just because it's your DNA. Some stuff you have to repeat. Biology literally says, I don't know what you posted, Justin, but okay. Biology literally says that when a mother has a mutated, broken gene, that fathers covers it. But when a father has the same, mom can't cover it. Fathers, their chromosome literally picks whether you're male or female, and you think you're nothing like your father? We are actually more like our fathers than our mothers. Our mothers nurture who we are, but our fathers cultivate and develop who we are. And when you do not have your father in your home and in your life to do that, guess what happens? You find yourself leaning to one side that is not beneficial. You find yourself leaning to one side of a story. And how many of you know a half story is a lie? A half truth is a lie. They say you find the truth somewhere, what, in the middle? Whether my mother tells it, my father tells it, it's somewhere in the middle. And if you don't have both sides, how do you know what the middle is? Oh, the kids are better off with their mother. Oh, I'll never disparage the mother. Fathers, you do that all the time. And I'm not telling you to disparage. I just had a call with a client. Trust me, you never say anything negative. I gave him, when the child brings up something, you never, your mother was amazing. She raised you to be an awesome child. I'm proud of the child that you are, blah, 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 right? But in some ways, fathers, when you do that, you leave your children to believe that their mother was the best, the better option. And what children need to know, whether you're age appropriate or you're an adult, is your father is telling you that because he don't want to say anything bad about your mama that he knows. That's his nice way of covering for your mother. But you think that it means something else. I remember having a conversation with my husband. And the conversation was about his half siblings. And he felt like those siblings turned out that way because of their father. And then I remember his nephew having a conversation with me when he was painting my beautiful wall that was right here. He was just talking about his grandfather. And they always just shared. I never asked. They would just share things. And so when he was having that conversation, I said, well, this is what my husband believes to be true. And he said, You've got to remember that they had a mother too, and their mothers were crazy. And I didn't say anything because I don't look. Most times when things were said to me, I didn't have much to contribute other than a I didn't have much to say. And I know that's hard to believe, but there were certain moments when I just didn't have much to say. And I think we give fathers a bad rap when they're just human, just like our mothers. Stop making your mother divine and a deity. Like it says right here, a doctrine believed to have divine authority, though not in scriptures. You think your mother's divine. You think your mother is like next to Jesus when she's touting and spreading doctrine. Look at Tokyo. You guys see Tokyo in the back here? She's spreading doctrine and beliefs and customs that come from the brokenness of her upbringing, that then come from the brokenness of her mother and father's upbringing, that come, and it just keeps going. Stop it. Let go of the story. Ask the question, who told me this? Why do I believe what it is that I believe? Who told these things to me? Who told me who my father is? Okay, my father had multiple children with multiple women. Just because you don't have multiple children running around, that's a whole nother conversation I'm not even about to go into. But don't think that just because it doesn't look just like your dad. If you're a womanizer, it's the same thing. Don't minimize your sins and travesties and injustices and elevate your father's because he wasn't present. I asked the gentleman I was on the call with a couple of hours ago after he told me the story of what was going on in his situation. And I said, where was your father? And he said, in prison. And if you know, which I'm not going to divulge, but I won't say if you know, me knowing his story, I can tell you, it's scary how much that pattern is real. I don't look, you guys, this comes in books that I study, and I then watch the patterns in my clients' lives, and then I know what questions to ask. And as I'm asking these questions, I'm watching how this really plays out in our lives. And I'm telling you, fatherlessness is a culture, it is generational, and it is happening over and over and over and over again. But the beautiful thing about this father that I talked to earlier, one of the things he said was, I have to break this for my children. I have to get to my children so that my daughter doesn't do the same thing and then have children with men and da 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 da. Like that was his prayer. And he was determined. But we got to get him reunited. We got to get him reunited so he can break that. Who told you what it is that you believe even about yourself? Because when we're told a story about our father, there's something that happens where we start to think certain things about ourselves. There's certain moments about our fathers because I'm his. I have his DNA. Am I anything like him? I'm sure we are. I'm sure we are. That was the client I was just talking about, a potential client. That chime you heard, he was thanking me for the call today. I want to read this to you guys. Stephen Furtick said this in a sermon I was listening to. Over time, tradition gets in the way of truth. Then you start thinking your tradition is the truth. You start to think that fatherlessness is normal. Divorce is normal. It's the truth. Abortions are normal. Alcoholism, it's normal. I just have a little nightcap. Smoking weed. Well, it's from the ground. And I'm not here to hate on anybody who does that, but you know the level in which you can. Is it generational? Does it go back? Prescription drugs, being addicted to prescription drugs. Opioid epidemic, that ain't new. It's not new. I'm not even going to go what was in my mind. I'm going to walk away from that. You're holding on to the story. And it's time you let it go. But what you have to do when you let the story go, You have to replace the story with the truth. There's a truth that has to come out of it. And that means that's going to require you to do some of the digging and go back through 1, 2, and 3. And this is what I need you to know about these 1, 2, 3, and now 4. The awareness of connecting the dots, and number 2, recognizing the patterns, and number 2A, being comfortable in the patterns when they're revealed to you, and number 3, counting the cost. You're going to have to continue to do those as you're digging up. Because remember, we talked about culture is tilling a ground, laboring over it, and driving a situation into the direction you desire it to go, right? When you find yourself letting go of the story, letting go of the traditions, and digging up the truth, you've got to dig it up. And that's going to require, it won't be a straight line anymore. It won't be in a direction that's driving you. You're going to find yourself having to go through these things 1, 2, 3, and 4, 2, 3, 1, 4. You're going to have to keep moving and figuring it out as you go. Because I got to tell you, the best part of this study that I've been doing this last couple of weeks concerning faith and pursuing God's purpose is I need you to recognize that purpose does not come without you backing into your pain and your journey of your life. You can't find your purpose. That's why many of you can't figure it out. I know why my husband couldn't figure it out, because you refused to accept the truth of the purpose that came, the pain that came with the purpose. There's a pain that comes with it. There's a truth that comes with it, and you didn't want to figure it out. And when it was revealed, you rejected it and denied it, like like they weren't telling you the truth. That is a problem, and many of you have that problem. Many of you have that problem. You will ask God for your purpose. He will then show you the pain and the trauma that you went through, and you'll be like, that ain't it. And then he'll implicate somebody that you love dearly, and you'll deny and say, that ain't it. Oh, boo, that's it. Ask anybody who's walking in their purpose. Ask anybody. The pain that you have to go through is back into your childhood. And we all have trauma from our childhood. I don't care how good you think that is. I don't care. We all have trauma. Even those in a 2-parent household have trauma. So when you decide that you want to dig this up and go find it, get your purpose, you got to go through the pain of healing the trauma and walking through the trauma. And the thing that really jumped out at me in this study about the promises of God is I'm going to make mistakes pursuing it. It's trial and error. It's digging something up and then realizing I was in the wrong spot and I need to pack that up and go to the next spot. It's time. It takes a lot of time and patience. It's also a situation where God promises me something, told me here, felt it, know it was divine. Then I tried to figure it out. And when I figured it out, I created a situation that's going to make it a little hard for me to follow my purpose, because that's not the child of the purpose, and that's not the purpose, because actually I was still in the lane of my culture of fatherlessness, and I hadn't dug up the ground and tilled what I needed to till. And so I still ended up having a child out of wedlock. But now that I'm on the right path, I gotta fight differently. And then I gotta wait. And even in me waiting, because God is promising through that person, through that situation, that's how he's going to get it to you. And you don't think so. Well, that thing seems dead. And in some ways, I'm talking to myself right now. That thing seems dead. But God's going to resurrect it because he's God. I can tell you right now, the culture of fatherlessness is destroying individuals, families, communities, states, cities, states, countries. It's destroying. And I know you guys are like, well, Tori, that's old way of thinking. Order is order, baby. And you don't get to change order. Did you change the order of gravity? Order is a law. And you guys keep wanting to change the order of family, especially us feminists. I ain't a feminist. Sorry. I get the purpose. I believe women should have certain rights, all of the rights, right? I get that. But what I'm talking about is the order of things. And then if you're not in your proper place, how you expect us to be where we're supposed to be? How you expect us to do what we're supposed to do? And when we're raised in single parent homes, we have to go out and get the extra. We got to go out and get the other stuff that we didn't get it in our home. And if we didn't get it in our home, we're going to keep repeating it. I recognize that God is in the natural and in the supernatural. I recognize that God is in this thing when it comes to fatherlessness. And I know many of you are like whatever was posted by Justin, the shared parenting I see.org, this report card thing. I've seen a lot of those, right? But here's the thing that I'm talking about on Healing Tuesdays is this thing is spiritual and then it's natural. I tell you guys that all the time. And I'm going to keep saying it. It's spiritual and then natural. The mission in this is to destroy the family unit. That's the mission. And I'm not going to get into what happens when the family unit is totally destroyed. You have to come to church and hear that sermon. Over time, tradition or traditions get in the way of truth. And then you start thinking your tradition is the truth. I want to say this too. Some of you tell the same story over and over again, and you don't want to let go of the story because the story is how you're surviving. The story has become your sole identity. My father left. My parents divorced. My father left. I became the son of the man of the house. My father left. He abused my mother, whatever that is. And I'm not an advocate for abuse, so don't go there because people can tell you. There's certain cases that they got main complaints online because I found out they were abusive. And trust me, anyone who comes to me, you don't think I'm investigating that part of who you are? You're crazy. I have a private investigator who I have do those things. And we have a service that we actually utilize that does background checks on any and everybody we work with. Don't tell you that all the time. But I can't reunite someone who I don't know your full background. And I do a national search, not just where you say you live. Because people move around a lot. People are transient. But you're telling yourself a story and it's allowing you to survive. And I know until you break up with this story and let go of the story that you're holding so tightly to, God can't get what he has for you in your hands. You want to break the cycle. I will never be like it. I don't want to do it. You're going to keep repeating those same patterns and those same things. I look at the numbers that are on here and let me say this to you. I see one person on. I know people watch in phantom or shadow. Trust me, I get phone calls. People tell me they don't want to click on it. And then I learn certain things about people watching to see if I'm going to break down based on the relationship or the lack thereof with my husband right now. Whatever that is, I don't even know anymore. That's funny to me because I don't do that. That's why I took time off, right? That's why I stepped away for a moment. Oh, it's Darren. See, Darren's the only one on right now. Darren is a coaching client that I have, but as people come on and watch it in replay, here's the challenge with this, that as I continue to build this time and this hour, I need people to share. I need people to share that we're on, that I'm coming on and doing Healing Tuesday. And I know it's a hard conversation for people to have, but I need you to recognize that this is something people need to hear because the majority of the people that you're in relationship with, they don't even know they're fatherless. They don't know. I thought about something recently as I was revising my book, Darren. I was revising the book this weekend, one of them. And I remember Vark saying he didn't know he was fatherless until he married me. And that's one of the reasons I do Healing Tuesday. It was partially to minister to him without ministering to him. Um, Funny enough, it really was. I realized that after the fact, but that's what it was. That's what it was for. Um, but in 2005, when I found my father and my father, and I took a DNA test, Vark was the one who opened the envelope of the DNA results, the paternity results, Darren. And I remember him reading them to me because I was reading this in this book. This is part of me telling in the book. I'm telling my journey of reunification. And I remember um, when he read the number, I said, "You lying?" And he gave me the paper, and and it was no. This man was my father. I found my father in 2 phone calls, 1 DNA test. Okay, or 2 different men calling them in 1 DNA test. And I can tell you, um, I questioned the other day, like, how was it that he didn't know he was fatherless until he married me? I asked that question the other day. Because I'm like, you helped open the envelope. Like, you read the results. Was it because you had a father that you knew of, but you didn't have a relationship with him? And I'm using that as an example because that's a lot of people. Oh, I know who my daddy is. That don't mean you ain't fatherless. Like, how do we get there? You have 0 relationship with this person, or you've met this person or seen this person a couple of times. How about the anger that you have concerning this person? Oh, no, I've forgiven them. Then why do you make that face when you're talking about them? Why, when you're sharing a story about how no good, they ain't never done nothing for me, you get that thing in your throat? How is you forgave them? No, you didn't. And part of the reason you can't forgive them is because there's a story that you've been told and you don't know how to let go of the story. Oh, they were this and that. They played around. They did these things. They did all that. And here's my question. In your adult life, have you done any of the things that were told to you that your father had done? I'll wait, especially if you're a man. You womanizing? You got multiple children with multiple women? And just because you had old girl get an abortion does not mean you don't have multiple children with multiple women. Next. You the same dude. But then judge him and be angry with him. Let go of the story. Somebody lying. Darren said the results are in and somebody's lying. That's what it is. You the same dude. But you're sitting here as a young man, mad, angry, hating your father. I'm going to ask those of you who are on and those of you who will watch in replay, how old are you? I got to post this Arrested Development post on Instagram tomorrow morning. What is your relationship age? What is that? Like the young lady I told you about earlier. She's 7. She's 7 because her development and her growth got stunted. 7 years old when her parents went through their divorce. How old are you? When did the trauma hit? Some of you are like, I never had my father. So when conflict shows up, when you're in a relationship that's come to heal your brokenness and your trauma, how old are you when you show up? When you have no development and then think you know everything? I don't think I know everything, but I think I know a lot, Darren. I'm going to tell you why I think I know a lot. Because I've done the work. I go to therapy. I read the doggone books. I bounce it off of people. I don't share with just anybody. I have covenant friendships. And this season, covenant friendships. I don't play with people. You're not going to have my business out in the streets. And these are the same people who've been with me majority of my marriage and have walked me through this season of this raggedy situation I'm in. because they were real friends. And let me tell you, some who weren't real friends, child, they got the get out of here. No time for it. Too many of you won't let go of the story because all of you in your group and your homeboys and your homegirls got the same story. Got the same story. That's why. And when I think about it, got the same story. See, I don't have homeboys and homegirls who running around on their wives and their husbands. I have no one in my close friends. Absolutely not. Some of you got close friends. Y'all know who they sleeping with. Y'all get them rooms. Y'all bring the mistresses over. I don't know. I done met a couple of mistresses hanging out with folks. You cool? Like, you comfortable with this? I was never comfortable with it. And I made it very clear I wasn't comfortable with it. I don't have people like that around me. You got people like that in your homeboy section? Come on. Your homegirls got you covering for her? You're repeating the culture of fatherlessness. You're allowing the transmission of customs and beliefs to be passed down and being passed down through you. Ladies grew up with no dads, and that's the husband's fault. That's what you're saying that we say. And I don't feel like it's the husband's fault all the time. Unfortunately, the work that I've done and the work that I will continue to do, I've learned more times than not, it's the mother's fault to a certain degree as well. I'm going to give it 50-50. Sometimes I've seen it 70-30, leaning towards mama. I asked a client last night, when you talk to your children, what are the 3 things you're going to say to them? So we crafted 3 things this person's going to say when he reunites. And the third one I needed him to get to was, I grew up in an abusive, abusive, domineering, and neglectful household. So I didn't have the tools. I also want to say he ran out of resources. He needed to tell his children. He used everything he had and ended up homeless, living in the woods, living in Tent City in Georgia, trying to fight for his children. His children don't know that. They don't know that. Because with all that false allegations you're battling, with that, got to file that. That's another $200. File that. That's another $200. File that. Get an attorney. The attorney using the hours up. Before you know it, you had 10 grand. Fighting and battling every little thing that's said to you. Ladies, cut it out. He didn't molest those kids. Stop it. He didn't molest those children. You're just saying that. And you're making it hard for the children who are molested. Like, seriously. You guys wouldn't believe the stuff I hear. I had a woman who actually said the father molested the little girl, and when she was confronted on it, Vark could tell you this story because the guy actually came and we all sat down and it was crazy. She said, if you pay me more in child support, I'll remove the case. Well, her case got dropped anyway. But she actually said that. She actually said that. What are we talking about? Like, that's a thing, you guys. That's a whole situation. And dads have to fight that. That gentleman actually flew into town, had just enough money to fly into town, go to court, win his case. Yes, he did. He saw his daughter that day, and he was going to sleep on the beach. And Varg said, no, he can stay with us. And that's how that went. But dads are going to that extreme. He was like, I have just enough money to fly here and fly back, and I was just going to sleep on the beach for the night. My husband was gracious, and Vark was gracious. I'll say it that way. Vark was gracious, and he stayed with us. That's a whole nother story. But the baby came to where we were, played in the pool, all of those things. All of those things. You guys have no idea. But you want to then blame men fully for fatherlessness. It's not real. Our mothers are part of the blame. And until you can actually implicate your mother, you're not going to grow. You will still be playing out the generational curse. That's what you'll do. Darren says the difference between a woman's lie and a man's lie. That's true. Y'all caught in y'all's all the time, even when you say you ain't. So you're like, okay, I believe you. I don't. Just so you know, I don't. There is an awareness that needs to be had when it comes to this culture that we're in. We are all fighting a fight. And if you don't know the tools that you need, if you don't know the battles you're fighting, if you do not know when it comes to fatherlessness, you're going to repeat that same cycle. You're going to find yourself in the same situation. And it's unfortunate. It's very unfortunate. Oh, my children haven't repeated the cycle. Okay. How are they mentally and emotionally? Oh, I know that they got great careers. That's what y'all lean on all the time, mama. Oh, my children have amazing careers. That's performance based. One thing fatherless children know how to do, baby, is perform. Because you taught us that. When you leave this house, we got to look well put together. We can't look like it's dysfunctional up in here. Because if we look like it's dysfunctional, then what does that say about our mother and her parenting and her decisions? And I'll say it. My mother was on here last week. I have zero relationship with her. She come on here just to see me at this point, y'all. And I don't have any issues with that. And it's not about my father. See, my mother had an opportunity to heal the wound that my grandmother created by being a great mother to me and being in a relationship to me and being in a relationship with me. But instead, she chose a toxic route. Instead, she chose to be toxic, dysfunctional, and abusive, and emotionally and verbally abusive. And my last straw was in August. And as a big girl and as a grown woman, there's no animosity. I realized that she can't coexist with me because it just rubs her some kind of way. Love her. Won't be in relationship with her because I'm not going to keep dimming my light for y'all to get it and catch up. I'm not going to keep putting myself in the curse and the culture of fatherlessness, trying to prove a point and trying to be accepted and validated. Can't do it. I cannot. And if anything, my marriage taught me that. I'm gonna tell you this a story. I sent Vark an email recently, and the email stated a few things, but the end of the email said, I'm grateful for our marriage and the things that it taught me, because it taught me that every lie that my mother told about me, I didn't have to morph into it. It wasn't a story I had to hold on to. It wasn't a battle that I had to fight. So you guys are fighting these lies and batting them off. I used to do the same thing when it came to my mother. Anybody who she told it to, anybody, I'm having to defend myself. And I realized that I didn't have to fight it and I didn't have to morph into it. And I told him it caused me to heal the relationship with my mother, allowing me to fully release her out of my life. And anyone who believed the lies that she told to cover up the abuse that she did to me. That's what marriage did for me. That's what it's done for me. It healed that. Because anytime those things came up, I went to counseling. I went to the therapy. I went and talked to friends. I went and bought books. I did the work. I went into prayer. I found scripture. But I also went to my husband. And the name that I always gave him was #problem solver. He was my #problem solver. And that, when you can break up with the lie, when you can let go of the story that is attached to your fatherlessness, and dig up and till up new ground to pave the way into a new direction, that's when the curse is broken. And as I was revising my book, I remembered the time when I was with my father and I went to his family reunion. First one I ever went to. I've been to two now. They're serious about family reunions. I go to this family reunion. My bonus mother whisks me off into the choir rehearsal. Um, they pray out. They said, we need somebody to pray us out. My bonus mother was like, she's a minister. She can pray. I was like, I don't know these people. Like, hold on. And so I prayed. And, there was a season in my life where I had way more scripture that I could just, got to get my mind sharp again. And so after I prayed out the service, people were like, who is that? Who is that? And so my bonus mother was introducing me to people. I have so many ministers and pastors and bishops and all that in my father's side of the family. It now made me make sense. So I'm sitting in the number one seat next to the podium in the choir stand before the service. And I see these, I'm writing in my journal. And there's a shadow here, a shadow here, and a shadow here. And I look up and it's the patriarchs of the family. These men were tall, strong. It was a connection. And they said, we know who you are. We've heard about you. We heard about the prayer that you prayed last night. And will you pray the service in? This is no knock to my mother and her journey, but I know she's attached to it. I didn't mean to cry tonight. You're looking at a girl who was conceived from an adulterous affair, who was born out of wedlock, who always wanted the acceptance of her mother, but then realized that she was accepted and legitimized that night when the patriarchs of my father's family stood in a circle around me, acknowledged who I was, accepted me into the family and welcomed me home, and then had me usher in the prayer of that service. I'm already accepted. I'm already legitimized. And many of you have the same thing, but because you haven't let go of the story, you feel unworthy. You're always fighting to be accepted. You're always battling with rejection and abandonment and neglect because you haven't let go of the story and made a decision to go on your healing journey to find out the truth, to let go of traditions and the culture that was created in your family, letting go of the family gods that come from the dysfunction, the toxicity, the generational curses that flow through your family line. And as much as I wish someone in particular would hear this message and really hear it for themselves, I know that he's listened for years and it didn't penetrate that way because everything is outside of himself and you don't receive that way. So I'm saying all of these things to you tonight, letting you know that you've got to let go of the story if you want to stop repeating the patterns. You've got to let go of the story that came to you secondhand through bitterness and heartbreak if you want to truly be the curse breaker. I'm going to end with that and tell you I'm Dr. Tori J. I am the founder and I'm the emotional, very sensitive founder and CEO of the Fatherless Generation Foundation. And next week, we're going to just start with another series, but I had to have this conversation with you. I pray that it blessed you, it impacted your journey, and it gave you some insight into the work that you have to do. Fatherlessness is not solely about you sitting up talking about the court system and this and this and this. Some of you are in the court system because your own father was in the very same court system battling out with, hello? Pay attention. Your grandfather was in the same court system. You're not paying attention. Pay attention. It's not just the system. It's your family. Got to tell you that. But it's easy to implicate the courts and implicate Title 4D and implicate the attorneys and implicate the judges. That's so outside of you. You haven't even done the inner work. Do the inner work. While you're battling the courts and the judges, go to therapy. Y'all gonna be tired of me. And I'm talking to fathers too. I'm not just talking to mothers. I know y'all think that's all I talk to. I'm talking to fathers and mothers. Get your butt in therapy. Your children need the best version of you when you show back up, when they come back into your life. Whether you're a mother alienated or father alienated, whether you're the primary parent and you're alienating. Oh, I don't keep my children from their daddy. Yes, you do. Stop lying. Darren, tell them to quit lying. The results are in and somebody lying. Stop lying. You are. Your children, they know you don't like their father. They hear you talking about him to your girlfriends. And I'm doing a whole Baptist moment where I said I was done and now I'm back for the remix. I'm back for the afterglow. Tokyo wants to come say hi. You come say hi? What? You say hi? He needs a haircut. You ain't got to lie, Craig, but they lying, Darren. Why are you sniffing my desk? There's nothing up here to eat. Nothing. Hi. And wave at daddy if he gets on here. Tokyo misses you. He has had some serious moments. He misses you. Yeah, he does. So y'all have a good night. I'm getting off of here. Tell him to quit lying, Darren.